Welcome back to the deep dive. Today we are focusing on a spice that is hiding some of the most profound therapeutic potential we've seen in years. We are diving into Xylopia ethiopica, better known across West and Central Africa as African pepper or often Uda.
It's a plant with a truly compelling dual identity. I mean, for centuries, it's been a huge part of West African cuisine. It gives you that really distinctive, pungent, smoky, a little bit bitter, but deeply aromatic flavor. But its role goes so much further than the kitchen. It's been a cornerstone of traditional medicine, treating, well, everything from deep-seated pain to respiratory issues.
That dual role is exactly what drew us in. So our mission today is surgical. We're analyzing the latest pharmacological studies, the hard biochemical evidence to see if modern science really validates these ancient traditional uses. And we're focusing on two massive areas of potential: non-tolerant pain management and its pretty surprising anti-cancer properties.
And we have an exceptional stack of sources for this. They meticulously break down the plant's entire biochemical makeup, isolating these key compounds like xylopic acid. And then they rigorously test their activity in preclinical models. What's fascinating is how clearly the research isolates the specific molecules responsible, It gives us a robust scientific rationale for why it's been used for so long.
Okay, so let's unpack this by starting where the plant started in its cultural context. I mean, when communities in Nigeria or Ghana or Cameroon talk about Uda, they aren't just talking about a casual seasoning, it's integral to healing and to ritual.
Absolutely. The ethnobotanical sources reveal just a massive range of applications. Historically, it's been used to treat chronic pain disorders, rheumatism, persistent headaches, nerve pain, neuralgia. And to give you an idea of its perceived potency, in certain parts of Ghana, it was actually used in government hospitals.
In government hospitals? For what?
To help induce placental discharge after childbirth. So that highlights a known, powerful action on the uterus.
Wow. And the rituals around it are so specific. I found it really compelling that in Nigeria, the Yoruba people use it in their famous herbal tonic agbo, specifically for new mothers.
That's right. The agbo mixture is all about postpartum care to cleanse the uterus, stimulate lactation, and obviously to provide pain relief. Meanwhile, the Igbo people use it for things like respiratory ailments, coughs and bronchitis. It truly bridges that gap between food, health, and even the spiritual realm, where it's often used in rituals for cleansing and protecting newborns.
So if these traditional healers knew intuitively that this spice was doing such heavy lifting, what does the modern nutritional analysis tell us? We have data breaking it down into the whole fruit, the seed, and the pericarp.
The analysis confirms it is a nutritional powerhouse. If you look at the approximate composition, the whole fruit really stands out. It has the highest crude protein content at about 7.8%, the highest total fat at nearly 33%, which is huge for essential fatty acids, and the highest crude fiber at almost 18.4%. So this is not just a flavor additive, it's a calorie-dense, fiber-rich food source.
Those are really high numbers for a spice. What about the micronutrients, the vitamins and minerals that, drive our biochemistry?
The vitamin profile is remarkable. Vitamin A is highly abundant, especially in the whole fruit. It logs an incredible 4.83 grams of vitamin A equivalent per 100 grams. And for minerals, the whole fruit is once again the richest source. The dominance hierarchy is clearly potassium first, then calcium, and then magnesium.
Okay, and here's where we can connect that nutritional profile directly to your health, the potential blood pressure benefit.
This is a great listener nugget. If we analyze the sodium to potassium ratio, the NAD/Cre ratio, it is extremely low. It ranges from 0.055 to 0.075. Now, clinicians widely recommend a ratio below 0.6 for patients dealing with hypertension. The fact that African pepper inherently has this very low ratio provides a clear biochemical reason for why its traditional consumption might naturally help regulate high blood pressure. It's essentially an anti-hypertensive spice.
So we start with this versatile, nutrient-dense culinary item that also happens to be great for blood pressure. But now we're going to transition from the general goodness of the pepper to its pharmacological superpowers.
That's right. The traditional use for chronic pain wasn't just anecdotal. The real pharmaceutical excitement is all about these specific compounds called diterpenes, primarily one called xylopic acid or XA, and a related one, carnoic acid.
And the sources outline a very thorough study design here, using multiple gold standard pain tests in animal models. So what did they find? When they pitted the isolated XA compound against different types of pain, what happened?
The science here is comprehensive.
Yeah.
They tested the ethanol extract, which they call XAE, and the pure XA against 3 distinct categories of pain. You have chemical pain, from things like the acetic acid riving test, then thermal pain using tail flick tests, and finally mechanical pain, which is the paw pressure test. And the conclusion was unequivocal. XAE and XA showed significant analgesic activity across all three types.
All three. So this isn't just masking pain.
No, it's targeting diverse nociceptive pathways, both in the periphery and centrally in the nervous system.
Let's get granular on potency. In that acetic acid test, they compared XA directly to morphine. Now, morphine is the gold standard opioid, so it was the most powerful naturally. How close did xylopic acid get?
Morphine had an ED50, that's the effective dose, for 50% of the subjects of 0.80 milligrams per kilogram. XA was next at 5.47 milligrams per kilogram, and then the crude extract was less potent at about 37.5. So XA is highly effective. It's definitely less potent than morphine, but it's still substantially more powerful than just using the raw fruit extract.
Okay, so if XA is less potent than morphine, why should pharmacologists be excited? I mean, we have plenty of pain relievers already, so that begs the question, what's the mechanism of action?
That is the critical question. The activity, especially in the later inflammatory phase of the formalin test, points very strongly toward an anti-inflammatory mechanism. It doesn't seem to be acting purely on opioid receptors. Xylopic acid is a corane deterpinase, and this class of compounds is already known to inhibit key pro-inflammatory mediators, things like prostaglandins and tumor necrosis factor alpha.
Can you simplify that mechanism for us? It sounds like it's affecting the body's entire alarm system.
Exactly. Think of NF-κB nuclear factor kappa B as the master switch that activates the entire cellular inflammatory alarm system. When your body senses injury or infection, NF-κ flips on, and that triggers the release of all those pain and inflammation signals. The research suggests XA basically impairs the activity of that master switch.
So it's not blocking the pain signal like an opioid?
No, it's dampening the whole inflammatory response that causes the pain in the first place. It's fundamentally different.
And this brings us to the finding that should be making headlines, the tolerance study. This is where the potential of African pepper just transcends standard pain medication.
This is the profound discovery. Chronic pain management often fails because patients develop tolerance to opioids like morphine. That means they need higher and higher doses, which drives dependence and the risk of addiction. In this study, after chronic administration, they found that while morphine rapidly induced tolerance, XAE and pure XA did not induce tolerance to their pain-relieving effects.
They just kept working.
They maintained their efficacy consistently.
That is game-changing. But the scientists didn't stop there. They tested for cross-tolerance. If a patient was already tolerant to morphine, would XA still work?
And this is the genius of the research design. They demonstrated that the tolerance someone develops to morphine did not cross-generalize to the analgesic effects of XAE or XA. This means that African pepper's active compound is using a completely distinct pathway for pain relief. So for chronic pain patients who are already caught in that cycle of opioid tolerance, xylopic acid could potentially offer effective long-term relief without forcing them onto higher and higher doses. I mean, the clinical and social value of that, especially with the opioid crisis, is just immense.
Given that XA works on the nervous system, let's just briefly touch on safety here. Did the isolated compound, xylopic acid, cause any negative side effects on the central nervous system?
The pure XA compound performed very well. It didn't impair motor coordination in the rotarod test, which confirms it isn't some debilitating central depressant. The research did note, though, that the full crude extract, the XAE, showed a mild motor impairment, but only at the highest doses. And the experts attribute this mild sedative effect to the presence of carnoic acid, that other deterpinase in the extract, which is already known to have sedative properties.
So the targeted painkiller, XA, is clean, but the whole pepper might make you a little sleepy because of its other ingredients.
That's a good way to put it.
It's incredible enough to find a non-tolerant pain solution in a spice. But the research doesn't stop there. We're moving now from a compound that helps you live better to one that might help you live longer. We're tackling cytotoxicity and cancer potential. And here, we move slightly away from xylopic acid to a different but related compound.
That's right. For this, researchers identified Ent-15-oxycar 16 and 19-oic acid, which we can just call EOK, as the primary cytotoxic agent in the extract. And this compound is distinct from XAK, the main pain reliever.
How potent was this new compound in the lab?
The extract showed significant anti-proliferative activity against a whole panel of human cancer cell lines. It was highly effective against HCT116 colon cancer cells and, maybe more notably, against U937 leukemia cells. For the leukemia cells, the IC50, that's the concentration needed to inhibit 50% of growth, was a very low 7.5 micrograms per milliliter. That's a strong indication of potency.
And for any anti-cancer agent, selectivity is everything, right? Does it kill the healthy cells along with the bad ones?
Absolutely, selectivity is paramount. So the study compared the effect against cancer cells versus normal human fibroblasts. The cytotoxic effect was significantly less pronounced against the healthy cells. About 30% of the normal cells survived the dose that completely wiped out the cancer cells. So that suggests EOK has a valuable degree of selectivity. It targets the malignant cells more effectively.
Okay, so let's get into the cellular battleground. For the listener, how does EOK actually kill the cancer cell? What's the simplified mechanism?
The research laid out a very clear pathway, one that's characteristic of good chemotherapy agents. EOK induces DNA damage inside the cancer cell. The cell detects this damage. They saw this through specific protein markers like that H2AX phosphorylation, and it tries to stop replicating. It forces the cell into an immediate halt. It's called cell cycle arrest, specifically in the G1 phase.
Arresting the cycle means the cell can't divide.
Correct. And because the damage is too great to repair, that arrest eventually triggers programmed cell death, or apoptosis. They confirm this cell death by seeing all the classic signs, like chromatin condensation and the cleavage of PRP, which are basically the biochemical hallmarks of cellular suicide. And this mechanism of inducing DNA damage and forcing apoptosis is remarkably similar to how established chemotherapy drugs like doxorubicin actually work.
The potential is just staggering. A non-tolerant pain reliever and a selectively cytotoxic agent, both from the same plant. But we have to address safety. If this is ever going to move beyond traditional use, what does the modern toxicology data say? Is African pepper generally safe?
The acute safety profile is overwhelmingly favorable. The lethal dose, or LD50, for the ethanolic and hydroethanolic extracts, is reported to be greater than 5,000 milligrams per kilogram of body weight in animal models. To put that in perspective, you would need to consume a massive, just an unrealistic amount of the fruit extract to reach a toxic level. So this generally supports its long-standing safety as a culinary spice and a short-term traditional remedy.
What about chronic use? If someone were taking this for long-term pain relief over, say, a month?
The subchronic data showed generally good tolerance over 28 days. No significant changes in overall body or organ weights. However, they did note that at very high doses, we're talking 500 to 1,000 milligrams per kilogram, it caused a significant increase in platelet count and a mild reversible elevation in some key liver enzymes, SGOT and ALP.
And these are markers for liver function, right?
Precisely. They indicate some degree of transient stress on the liver, but, and this is the important part, there was no actual histological damage, no physical tissue damage to the organs. This suggests the effects were mild and reversible. It's a good sign, but it's definitely something that needs careful monitoring in any clinical application.
Okay, finally, let's revisit its traditional use for childbirth-inducing placental discharge, stimulating contractions. This implies potent effects on the reproductive system, which demands a serious discussion about safety.
It does. The studies confirm this plant has a potent and complex bioactivity. It has both uterotonic uterus-stimulating activity and estrogenic activity, which is why it works in traditional postpartum care. However, and this is the major caveat, high doses in animal models have shown potential fertility-inhibiting effects. This included decreased sperm motility and count in males and disrupted ovarian histology in females.
So the very compounds that make it potent for specific postpartum uses also make it dangerous for unregulated use, especially during or before conception.
Exactly. This dual activity is a perfect example of why traditional knowledge has to be transloaded into modern medicine with strict dose regulation. The plant is potent, and the therapeutic line between stimulating a contraction and potentially inhibiting fertility is extremely fine. Unsupervised use, particularly if you're pregnant or trying to conceive, must be strongly avoided.
This deep dive into Xylopia ethiopica has just demonstrated how rich traditional knowledge can be when it's validated by rigorous science. I mean, we've found a remarkably complex plant.
If we synthesize the findings, we have a spice containing at least two distinct high-value terpenes. There's xylopic acid, which provides pain relief by bypassing the standard opioid tolerance mechanism. And then there's EOKA, which shows strong selective cytotoxicity against various aggressive cancer cell lines. The acute safety profile is encouraging, but its biological potency demands caution.
What really stands out to me is the immense gap. We have decades of incredibly compelling lab research-validated anti-inflammatory, analgesic, and anti-cancer potential, but the resources show no identified human clinical trials to date. The science is screaming, but clinical translation is silent.
It's the perennial roadblock for natural products. The compelling data is there, but the regulatory pathways are just so complex and costly.
So here's the final provocative thought for you to consider. Given the profound and urgent implications of xylopic acid, specifically, the potential for a non-tolerant, opioid-sparing analgesic, what regulatory, scientific, and financial infrastructure needs to be mobilized globally to move this traditional African pepper into a standardized, clinically tested drug? That's the challenge for the next generation of pharmacology.
A challenge well worth taking on.
Thank you for joining us for the deep dive. We'll be back soon with more insights.